Norway has always held a special place in my heart. I first traveled there 6 years ago to see if I could hook into one of their famed Atlantic salmon. To make a long story short, I left without landing a fish, but did end up meeting my future husband. We were sharing an old farmhouse that sat on one of the most famous runs on the Gaula River. I had just woke up and walked out of that door right there, and Charles was standing right here, putting on his waders. I walked outside and our eyes met, and it was literally like in the movies. It doesn't get dark out for 24 hours a day during the summer months in Norway, so we had plenty of time to get to know each other better. Before long, we'd fallen in love around a campfire at a fishing spot just upstream and across the railway tracks from the house we were staying at. There must be some sort of magic in that Norwegian air, because I've been back twice since. My second trip back was just as tough as the first, only a little harder to breathe and with a lot more bathroom breaks. I was pregnant and starting to feel it. Charles was on his way to Russia, so we arranged to meet up for a few days in Norway before he left. How pretty it is. So what time is it? It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Hello, baby. Today, your dad and I have met up in Norway again where we first met. 4 years later, and you're in there. I mean, that's a fly box, that's that big bump, but you are in there and making quite the bump. So anyway, we're very excited to see you, and we will come back with you when you're a little bit older. Do you have anything you want to say? I stayed on to fish and to podcast Per Arneberg, who is the owner of the Norwegian Fly Fishers Club and one of our dear friends. While the camaraderie was excellent and the fish were biting, they just weren't biting anything I was throwing at them. I went home a little bummed that I still hadn't caught a fish in the mighty Gaula River. 2 years later, the kiddo and I arranged to fly in from Canada to meet Charles in Norway. We flew from Smithers to Seattle, Seattle to Frankfurt, and Frankfurt to Oslo, where Charles was set to fly with us to Trondheim.
Welcome to Trondheim. For safety reasons, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened to the seat back and table uprights.
It was surreal coming back to Norway with the man I'd met there and the baby who'd been there, but hadn't actually been there.
Okay, Adelaide, what country are we in? Norway. Norway.
The river had been on the rise with a recent influx of rain, and we were starting to think that we may have timed it right.
Okay, everyone, this is great.
The Gaula River pours directly into the ocean and is famous for its fresh Atlantic salmon. It's a wide river, perfect for spey casts and large swung flies. Our drive from the airport went by fast, and soon we were settling into another farmhouse that would be our home for the next couple weeks. We checked into the lodge to pick up our angler rotation and map. The Gaula River operates on a beat system, which means,
as opposed to in the US or in Canada where you have public water where anyone can access it, put on, float, or wade, here in Norway, the vast majority, at least of salmon rivers, are privately owned by landowners. It's their riparian rights. So they own a farm, and where that farm pours into the river, that piece of riverfront is their beat, or their piece of river. So what we do is we lease water from farmers based on the pool or a certain stretch. We lease it exclusively. So every 6 hours for 24 hours, you get a new piece of river, a new pool to fish on. So with this rotation, every 6 hours new fishing, you're constantly changing in different parts of the river.
The 24 hours of light keeps things interesting, especially if you end up getting your favorite beat at midnight.
Nice work, honey. What time was that at?
3:30 a.m.
Ouch.
Wow.
On our first full day of fishing, the weather cleared up and we were excited and in a hurry to get our lines in the water. But bright, clear conditions can make the fishing tricky, so when the clouds moved in the next few days, we weren't exactly bummed. The water was getting some color in it, which is great. We really need that. Hopefully this will help get these fish to bite. So we hit our morning beat and tied on some large flies.
Nice work, Hanson. What? Yeah.
Beautiful bright fish.
All right, camera's going away. Done. Nice work. How you doing? Let's have a look at him.
Oh, he's
he's
nice.
long.
Hook's come out. Oh, wow.
Oh, honey, we landed that right in the nick of time.
Yes, we did.
Okay. That was so exciting. Did you hear her? She was, woo, woo, woo. Yay, we are not skunked.
So my little fishing buddy and I just kept at it, fishing hard but still taking time to explore, forage, roast hot dogs, and dance, obviously. By now, I'd put in 10 days and had yet to bring a fish to hand. My shoulders were sore and my confidence was diminished, but I was determined to do my best to show my little girl what these fish are all about. So we stuck with it and kept on trying. Cast, swing, bounce, repeat. Cast, swing, bounce, repeat. Until... I probably should have filmed this last night, but I was just honestly too excited to remember to pull out the camera. But we had decided that we were going to have a late family night. So we were going to stay out till midnight. And because we had a beat from 6 p.m. till midnight, we decided that we were going to put in the whole time. So I went through and hooked and lost one and was absolutely gutted. I made the mistake of borrowing this stupid setup with this reel that kept seizing.
So about that able.
The first little bit of jam up sets the hook. Then when it goes light drag, you palm it. Make small adjustments with the knob.
What about the second bit of drag, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then the freight train stop, and then the free spool? Anyway, back to the Farlex.
It was just a complete cluster, you know what. So, went back through again after we had taken some time to settle and have a barbecue. And sure enough, it happened just like... It was chaos. So, it was just worth every single second of disappointment to know that that was going to be my first fish caught on the Gaula. And all at that magical spot. After that, Charles caught a couple nice fish, and any pressure we'd put on ourselves dissipated.
Did you see that banana tree at the last run we fished?
Yeah, I did.
So it was a toss-up whether or not we should fish on our last day. We had to be at the airport that afternoon, but the spot I'd caught my fish a few days earlier was on our way out of town, and it just happened to be a part of our rotation at the moment. Charles took over baby duty at the car while I slipped into my waders to make a quick 10 casts. And for the first time ever in my life, the whole one last cast thing actually paid off.
Hasn't even started.
It's heavy, like it's big. I feel it's big. I feel like it's playing with me.
It is.
Oh dear. Yeah,
It's a big fish.
I know.
The banana does it again.
There was just one problem. Charles was dressed for the airport.
You're going to have to almost beach it for me, you know that?
Yeah. Why?
I've got no waders on.
Oh my god, you got no ears on. You might just have to get wet, Hanson.
No, I'm not getting wet. It's the only pair of shoes I've got for the whole ride home.
Big fish.
You're just going to have to walk it up into the shallows here. I cannot get my feet on. Sorry. Or we can switch and you can go out and net it.
Maybe let's do
Go
that.
here. You want to do that? Let's get close to netting time.
So we made the switch.
Fucking huge.
Net hits!
Holy. He's huge! Oh my god, he's so big!
And there, in my hands, lay the biggest Atlantic salmon I had ever caught.
Okay, hang on, Ben. Hang on. Let me get you ready. Let me get you organized. It's enormous. That was crazy. That was teamwork.
We're just going to hang out now, relax for our last 25 minutes, and let that all just sink in. It was nice to leave our special spot on such a high note. We said our goodbyes and took one last look around the place that brought the three of us together. When I first came to Norway all those years ago, I thought I knew what happiness was. But now, standing in that exact same spot filled with my family's laughter, it's clear to me that I was happy, but not necessarily fulfilled. Not like this, anyway. And certainly not like a woman who took 3 trips to land a 30-plus pound beauty of an Atlantic salmon.
10 years you'll be doing this little pretty, and I'm going to be standing right next to you. Yeah. Big one.
10 years?